Nobody saw it coming. Amy Fleming stood in the middle of Heartland Ranch, surrounded by family, and dropped a statement that shook the ground beneath them. After all the heartbreak, healing, and quiet strength, her words stunned even Jack. But to understand why it mattered so much, we have to go back to where Season 18 left us and what led to this moment of truth. Season 18 ended on a note of quiet reflection. Amy had spent the last few years trying to heal after losing Ty. Her grief was deep but silent. She never made dramatic speeches. She worked with the horses. She raised Lindy. And she kept going, even when it hurt. The audience could feel that pain in every smile she gave and every glance at Ty's old pictures. Amy was still the heart of Heartland, but her heart was still mending. At the end of Season 18, there were small signs of change. Amy seemed calmer, stronger, and more focused. But there was something missing, something just below the surface. Jack had noticed it. So had Lou. Even little Lindy, in her innocent way, sensed her mother holding something back. There was a distance in Amy's eyes, the kind that made you wonder if she was thinking of leaving, or maybe finally moving forward. Meanwhile, the rest of the family had their own battles. Lou was struggling to balance her mayoral responsibilities with her family. Katie was growing up fast, finding her own voice, sometimes clashing with her mom. Tim had health worries again, though he tried to hide it. And Jack, wise as always, knew the family was strong, but something was coming. Something big. As for the ranch itself, it remained a place of peace. The horses, the barns, the sunsets, it all felt the same. But change was in the air. Amy had been taking more walks alone, spending longer hours with Spartan, almost as if she was trying to say goodbye without using words. There were whispers about Amy working with a new trainer. Others noticed she had been keeping to herself more than usual. The calm before the storm was clear to anyone paying attention. And while everything seemed still on the outside, inside Amy was preparing for something huge. The audience didn't know it yet, but episode 1 of Season 19 would open that door, and Amy's shocking words would change the tone of the entire season. It wasn't just a random sentence. It was a moment that would redefine her story, and possibly the future of Heartland itself. The wind was different that morning. Not stronger, not colder, just different. Amy stood by the fence watching the horses, but she wasn't really seeing them. Something was stirring in her, something she hadn't let herself feel in years. It was the first day of a new season, but what no one knew yet was that it would be the beginning of the end of her silence. Life at Heartland looked almost the same on the outside. The barn was alive with the usual sounds: hooves tapping, hay rustling, and the familiar voices of family working together. But there was a strange quietness in Amy's routine. She moved through her chores with practiced grace, but her mind was clearly elsewhere. When Jack offered his usual words of wisdom, she smiled politely. When Lou dropped by to share her political stress, Amy listened but didn't say much. Even when Lindy asked a curious question about her dad, Amy gave a warm answer, but her eyes were far away. It wasn't just Amy who had changed. The ranch itself felt like it was waiting, like it knew something important was about to happen. A new horse had arrived, wild, stubborn, full of spirit. Amy usually jumped at the chance to connect with animals like that, but this time she hesitated. It was Caleb who noticed first. "You okay?" he asked lightly, pretending not to care too much. Amy gave her usual response, "I'm fine." But even he could tell that wasn't the truth. Later that day, Jack watched from the porch as Amy stood in the middle of the field, not moving, just staring at the open sky. He knew that look. It wasn't sadness. It was a decision being made. Quiet and serious, like the calm right before a thunderstorm. What was she thinking? Was she considering leaving the ranch? Selling her part of it? Or maybe finally opening herself to a new future? Jack didn't know. But he knew one thing: Amy was about to say something that would change everything. And when she did, none of them would be ready. Sometimes, the loudest pain is the one that makes no sound. Amy didn't cry. She didn't break things. She didn't scream at the stars. But inside, something was cracking slowly, silently. And in episode 1, we finally see it. Not through her words, But through the moments when she says nothing at all, as the day unfolds at Heartland Ranch, Amy's silence grows heavier than words. She watches Lindy ride her pony and smiles, but the smile fades as soon as her daughter looks away. When Jack jokes over dinner, Amy nods, but her fork never moves. Her mind is somewhere else entirely, trapped between the past and a future she hasn't allowed herself to imagine. This is not the Amy we knew in earlier seasons. This is a woman who has learned how to survive without ever truly healing. Ty's memory still lives everywhere, his jacket still hanging behind the door, his picture still on the mantle. But it's Amy's heart that carries the heaviest weight. For years, she had been holding it together for everyone else. For Lindy, for Jack, for the ranch. And now, for the first time, she's allowing herself to feel something she's avoided: freedom. But that freedom is terrifying, because it means choosing a life that moves forward without Ty in it. She finds herself alone in the barn that evening. The horses shuffle gently in their stalls. Amy walks up to Spartan, her old friend, and places her hand on his neck. Tears begin to well up, not the kind you sob out loud, but the kind you try to blink away before anyone sees. She whispers something quiet, emotional, barely heard. It's not for anyone else. It's for Ty, and maybe for herself. A moment of truth in the shadows of her grief. And this moment is the final breath before the storm that begins with her next words. It happened during dinner. No one was expecting anything. The sun had just set behind the Rockies, casting golden light across the kitchen table. Laughter, soft talk, the clinking of plates. And then Amy stood up. Not fast, not loud, just calm. And then she said the one sentence that made Jack drop his fork mid-bite. The family had gathered like they always did, Lou updating everyone about her council meetings, Katie scrolling through her phone, Jack quietly enjoying his stew, Tim teasingly arguing with Caleb. And Amy? She had barely spoken all day, but her silence was like a quiet drumbeat, growing louder with every minute. There was something in her eyes that no one saw until it was too late. A kind of decision, final, steady, and heavy. Then she rose from her chair. At first, no one noticed. Not until she placed both palms on the edge of the table and looked around. Her voice didn't tremble, her eyes didn't water, but her words carried the kind of weight that made the whole room still. I've decided to sell my share of the ranch. There was a pause, only a second long, but it felt like forever. The air got thick. Jack's hand froze above his plate. Lou's eyes widened. Tim straightened in his seat. Even Lindy looked up, sensing something had changed. No one knew what to say. They just stared at her, waiting for her to take it back, to smile and say it was a joke. But Amy didn't. She just stood there, waiting for the storm she knew would come. For a moment, no one breathed. Amy's words didn't echo, they landed, heavy, final. It wasn't just a business decision. It was a scar opening in front of them. The family who had weathered every storm together now sat frozen because the strongest one among them had just shaken their very foundation. Jack was the first to react, not with words, but with silence. His fork dropped gently onto his plate, the sound barely audible but sharp in the quiet. His eyes searched Amy's face, not in anger, but in pain. The kind of pain only a grandfather feels when the girl he raised, the one he protected through every storm, now wants to leave the home they built together. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. His silence said everything. Lou, on the other hand, couldn't hold back. You can't mean that, she said, her voice cracking between disbelief and panic. Amy, this is your life, our life. Her reaction was fierce, not out of control, but full of fear. Fear that everything holding their family together might be slipping through their fingers. Tim jumped in, trying to play peacemaker, but his voice was tight. Let's not overreact, he muttered, clearly overreacting himself. Lindy looked confused. Mommy, are we leaving? That simple question hit Amy harder than anything else. Her lips parted, but no words came out. She kneeled beside her daughter, wrapped her arms around her, and whispered, I don't know yet, baby. The room stayed silent after that. No one knew what to say. No one knew what Amy truly meant, not yet. But everyone felt it. A shift, a divide, something sacred had just been cracked open. And nothing in Heartland would ever feel quite the same again. News spreads fast in Hudson. But when it's about Amy Fleming, Heartland's beating heart, the whispers turn into waves. She didn't post it. She didn't shout it. But somehow, within hours, her quiet announcement reached the ears of everyone who had ever ridden through those gates. And just like that, the ripples began. At T. Maggie's diner the next morning, conversations shifted. Plates were still served, coffee still poured, but the topic at every table was the same. Did you hear what Amy said? Even the regulars who usually stayed out of family matters couldn't ignore it. For them, Amy wasn't just part of Heartland. She was Heartland. Her choice to step away wasn't just personal, it was like a piece of the community itself breaking off. Georgie, training abroad, got a message from Katie. She's selling her share. The response took minutes to come. Then, no, she wouldn't. Not Amy. But even Georgie, far from home, could feel it, that strange ache in her chest. A sense that the anchor she once relied on was drifting. Caleb, stunned, stood at the edge of the paddock, unsure whether to saddle up or go speak to Amy. He didn't. Not yet. He wasn't ready to hear what she might say next. Back at the ranch, the silence had turned into tension. Jack moved slower. Lou was distracted. Even the horses seemed unsettled, sensing the uncertainty in their caretakers. And Amy? She kept working, feeding, brushing, training. But everyone could tell she wasn't really there. Her body was at Heartland. But her spirit? Her thoughts? They were somewhere else, far ahead, chasing a future no one else could see. The ripples of her statement were still spreading, and by the time they reached the edge of the season, the entire Heartland world might be changed forever. Some moments don't just move a story forward, they split it in two. Before Amy's statement, Heartland was holding on to the past. After it, everything is uncertain. And that's what makes season 19 so different. This isn't just a new chapter. It's a new book. A book Amy might not finish in the place she's always called home. Season 19 is no longer about recovery. It's about reckoning. Amy's decision to sell her share of the ranch wasn't made lightly, and it wasn't just about business. It was about identity. For the first time, we see her asking, who am I without this place? And more importantly, do I have the courage to find out? That question will shape every episode going forward. Whether she leaves or stays, she's no longer the same woman we knew before. The rest of the season will likely explore the ripple effects of her choice. Will Jack try to stop her or support her? Will Lou fight to keep the ranch intact, or will she understand Amy's need for change? And what about Lindy? Will Amy uproot her daughter's entire world, or will Lindy be the reason she stays? These aren't just plot points. They're emotional battles that cut deep into the core of Heartland's legacy. But perhaps the biggest question isn't what Amy will do, but who she will become. There are hints already: new faces arriving, old wounds reopening, and unexpected alliances forming. Fans are wondering, is love on the horizon again for Amy? Is she seeking freedom, or is she finally allowing herself to move on without guilt? One thing is certain: whatever happens next, Heartland will never be the same. And neither will Amy. Some choices don't just affect one person, they shift the entire landscape around them. Amy's quiet but powerful decision to sell her share of Heartland has done just that. For years, she was the one holding the ranch together after Ty's death, after the heartbreak, after every family storm. But now, her moment of release has created a wave of uncertainty that no one in her family or the audience can ignore. This isn't just about land. It's about what Heartland means and who Amy is without it. Season 19 is clearly moving into bold, unfamiliar territory. The comfort of routine is gone. For the first time, Amy is not reacting to tragedy, she's initiating change. That alone makes this season one of the most emotionally charged yet. Her shocking statement is more than a plot twist. It's a declaration of transformation. And now, every relationship around her is being tested. Jack, who has always been her rock, must now choose whether to challenge her decision or trust the woman she's become. Lou, always the protector of the family's legacy, feels torn between fighting for tradition and understanding her sister's need to evolve. Tim, usually direct and confident, finds himself unsure how to guide or advise. Even Caleb seems to be walking on eggshells, waiting to see if Amy is truly ready to start something new or just trying to escape something old. Lindy's place in all this can be ignored. She's growing up fast, and Amy's decisions will shape not just her childhood but her sense of identity. Is Amy thinking about a better life for her daughter? Or is this about finally letting herself live instead of just surviving? These are the silent questions season 19 is beginning to explore, and they carry more emotional weight than ever before, but fans can't help but wonder what's next. Will Amy really walk away from Heartland? Is she considering love again? Could a new relationship be forming, one that pushes her out of her comfort zone? Or will her journey lead her back to the ranch not out of duty, but from a place of personal healing and choice? These possibilities are now wide open, and that's what makes season 19 so unpredictable and so deeply human. Heartland has always been about family, healing, and finding strength in the hardest moments. But now, we're seeing what happens when someone chooses growth over comfort. Amy isn't just surviving anymore. She's becoming something new. And as much as it scares her and the family, this new version of Amy might be the most powerful one yet. One thing is clear. This season will change everything.